Good day, farmers. Good day, everyone who has managed to join our webinar for today. We'll be digging deep into onion production. We'll be talking about the product varieties that we have. We'll also be talking about the production process for our onions to come out quite nicely. Me, myself, talking, I'm Francis Mapindani, and I am an agronomist with Sitco Vegetables. And presenting to you guys today with me is Brian Yandoro, our product development officer at Sitco Vegetables. So today we'll be mostly going deep into that, and we'll be interchanging me and Brian just to make sure that the message that comes out to each and every one of you, our farmers, is quite clear. So start off our presentation. We'll be trying to talk more about the scope of what we're going to be talking about today. The first thing that we want to talk about is obviously equipping the participants, which is our farmers and everyone who is interested in knowing our onion varieties and everything that we do at Sitco. So our job today is to make sure that everyone is equipped with the knowledge on the uniqueness of horticulture and also the uniqueness of our onion varieties that we have at Sitco as compared to what we have on the market, and also try to bring through the idea of the best vegetable production practices, and lastly, the key genetics of Sitco vegetable hybrids and how our farmers can make sure they unleash that potential that our varieties have. So we need to make sure that all of that is pushed to our farmers so that they know everything that is there for us to finish them with. The first thing we'll talk about is the vegetable production best practices. The first thing that we can talk about that we've noticed that our farmers usually do is obviously the soil fertility and analysis. It's always necessary for our farmers whenever they're starting to make sure that they avoid blanket fertilizer recommendations. So most of the time, we recommend our farmers to get their soils tested first so that they avoid having the issue of having a blanket fertilizer recommendation or just a general fertilizer recommendation, because soils differ and the nutrients and the salts in our soils differ. So it's much more necessary for our farmers to make sure that they avoid going the route where they have a blanket fertilizer recommendation, which might come through as something that might actually stop our crop from performing to its full potential. Then good soil preparation. We need to make sure that our soil preparation is deep, not too cloddy, not too fine, just to make sure that each and every one of our little seedlings that we're going to be putting into our soil is going to get the best space. It's going to get the best bed that it's going to unleash its potential on. So we need to make sure that our soil preparation is always on point. Quality seedlings are necessary as well. Young, vigorous, healthy, and well-hardened seedlings are always necessary, because for us to start off our crop, to start our journey to having a bumper harvest, it all starts with the right seed, but also the right seedling works as well. So our farmers need to make sure that they start off with the quality seedlings. For onions, we usually recommend our farmers to try by all means to fix their own seed beds and actually start quite so well. For other things like onions, for other things like cabbages, for broccoli, for tomatoes, we need to make sure that we manage to get in touch with professional seedling house that is going to create a very good a seedling for us to actually start our cropping journey quite nicely. But for onions, it's usually a bit much more costly for us to go the seedling route sometimes. But unless if you're going to buy time, if you are behind time, it's always necessary for you to go the seedling route. But for any farmers who are actually just a bit much more cost, they're trying to kind of minimize their costs when they're starting their crop, we need to make sure that we can teach each other on how to create the best quality seedling for our crop. Healthy crop, we need to make sure that our crop is weed, pest, and disease free. We can do this by trying to make sure that we incorporate chemicals, we can incorporate mechanical controls, and also we can incorporate cultural controls as well. Then talking about irrigation, we need to know what kind of irrigation our crop wants. Drip, overhead, or flat, depending on obviously the quite a number of factors that are always needed for that. So we need to make sure that our farmers get to know that. Then lastly, proper storage and post-harvest handling. We need to make sure that when it comes to onions, we need a cool storage house that is obviously going to have that is not going to have high relative humidity as well. So basically, these are some of the things that we really need to make sure that we start off with. Then talking about general onion production, Brian is the one who's going to be digging deeper into this aspect. So Brian, I'm handing this over to you.
Thank you, Francis, and thank you for spearheading this conversation about onions. So generally, for this particular species, we are currently in season. So that's why we decided as Seedco to have a conversation with our farmers regarding the production and best practices when it comes to our onions. So yeah, it comes to a genus called Allium, and it consists of more than 800 species, both ornamental and edible. Grouping within the genus Allium that contain the major vegetable crops. Okay, so unlike these other vegetable crops, onions, the 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 only vegetable species that is very sensitive to your day length. So they are segmented into different categories based on that parameter. From this slide, I'm starting from the bottom because Zimbabwe generally is in the southern hemisphere, and we do only the short days and intermediate day onions. The short day onions, they require 10 to 12.5 hours of light per day, and the latitude should be between 0 to 35. And the intermediate day, they are in the range of 12 to 14 hours of light per day, and the latitude will be in the range of 30 to 42. So this information is very critical when you're selecting an onion variety for your winter production. We do have the long days and extra long days, but these are mostly for the northern part of the world, and we do not have these in the southern hemisphere. We do have varieties in each and every category that we have in our climate, which is the short day and intermediate day onions. Moving on to the attributes to consider when choosing an onion variety. We cannot exhaust this list of attributes, but we just picked the attributes we felt like they are of paramount importance when we are interacting with our market. These are the attributes they say they are being sought after by our household users. So we look at parameters like your bulb color. Bulb color, we do have the yellow onions and the red onions. These yellow onions, they are commonly used for cooking due to their balanced flavor, and red onions in Southern Africa specifically, they are used for salads. We look at the flavor profile of the onion. We look at the growing season, and this is clearly defined by the day length required by a certain variety. So the short day varieties, they are best suited for southern regions where daylight hours are shorter. They start bulbing within about 10 to 12 hours of light per day. The long day onions, ideal for the northern regions with shorter day length hours. They require about 14 to 16 hours of daylight to start bulbing. Then we also have the intermediate day. I think I've alluded to this before in the previous slides. Moving on with the key attributes, we look at the storage capability. Some of the varieties store better than others. We'll be talking about the skin retention capacity, the number of skins, the skin thicknesses as well. Then we talk about size and shape. Some onions are round, some are elliptic, some are granites. Then things like the disease resistance, they are also key, especially for the early seasons. Those onions that are sown in months like January and February, disease resistance becomes something of paramount importance. So certain varieties are bred for resistance to common diseases such as your downy mildew, your white rot, your botrytis, even thrips. Then we look at parameters like your yield potential, the potential yield per hectare or per acre, per square meter, can influence the choice of a variety, especially for commercial growers. We look at days to maturity, the time it takes from planting to harvest, or in this case, maybe transplanting as well, can vary significantly between varieties, influencing planting schedule. Other attributes to consider include the bolting tolerance, tolerance to splitting, absence of double centers, internal appearance, and this is a specific attributes for red onions, number of skins, neck size, as well as foliage volume. We are alternating these slides, so I'm handing over the floor to Francis to take over. Francis, you can come on board.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brian. Our farmers were complaining that they can see our faces. So maybe we can also try to bring that through as well.
Okay, they want to marry the voices to the faces.
Very much so, very
Okay.
much so. So I don't know if there's any clarity to that, if our farmers can see us now. Perfect. There we go. So our hybrid F1s, what are hybrid F1s? These are high value vegetable seeds and they are achieved by combining the best traits of their parents. So what we usually try to get from that is obviously making sure that we get two parents that we love their attributes for and try to merge them so that we can get an offspring that is going to give us our desired trait at the end of the day. So they are developed through controlled cross-pollination and they exhibit hybrid vigor, which is usually a superior performance that our farmers usually like. So we need to make sure that we manage to get that. And moving on, why choose Seedco vegetable varieties? They are high yielding and they also bring high productivity as well. So that kind of like comes through as a good thing for our farmers because it brings through the high returns from investment as well. They get a much more higher return from their crop. Uniformity of key traits. There's quite a number of issues sometimes when you use OPV varieties, open pollinated varieties, the ones that are not hybrid varieties. For onions, comparing them, we might use the Texas Grano and the Capriccio varieties examples as well. You can talk about some things that might not be uniform, like the bulb shapes, the bulb sizes, and sometimes even the maturity times as well. Your field might not mature close to around the same time as much as you might want to. So we need to make sure that we get uniform key traits that we can get from using hybrid varieties, hybrid varieties like the Chelsea, the Dinas that Brian was mentioning about quite now. Then obviously growth vigor. Hybrids usually possess high vigor. So it's something that our farmers usually need to make sure that they manage to get from their crop so that they know that their crop is going to give them the best possible performance out there. Then pest and disease resistance. You have quite a number of varieties that bring through very high disease resistances and also in some cases pest resistances as well. So you have some diseases like in the onion segment, we have the pink rods. You always have some of varieties that obviously are going to bring some of those resistances. So each and every farmer should obviously get some of that benefits of using Seedco hybrid. Then lastly, improved quality. So it kind of comes through from the color, the flavor, the nutrition, and the taste as well. So the flavor kind of comes through because some onion varieties are much more pungent than others. Some are much more deeper red than others. Some are highly much more nutritious. So it's always something that our farmers should always get to know. Also, I said lastly, but I still have a couple more things to say. Better adaptation. You have some varieties that are going to come through and perform quite much more better during certain segments of the year. Like what Brian was saying about the day length, how the day lengths affect our onion varieties and their performance. These are some of the adaptation that we get from having hybrid varieties that are going to come through and slot very well during the season that we want them to be slotting on. High longevity. For onions, we get good field holding capacity and also shelf life as well. For onions, you're getting the shelf life. For cabbage, you're getting good field holding capacity. So let's make sure that we get to manage to get into that. Then also we need to make sure that we fit to production conditions. If it's indoor, let's say peppers, we know that our peppers are going to perform quite well indoors. If it's also going to perform both indoors and outdoors, we also know that it's going to come out like that. Then lastly, suited for target markets. Taking the onions, for example, we have some varieties that Brian is going to be talking about that we segment within our basket, like possibly for example, maybe we have a variety that we're going to be targeting to send direct to the open market, to Mbare. We definitely need something that's going to give you a good bulb, a big bulb, and also a good round color as well. You definitely know that Sobirana is going to give you that. But if you're always going to look for something which is a bit much more medium or something much more tolerable, that is going to be dried well, and also something that's going to be tolerated if it's going to be packed as a dry onion, you know that your Chelsea and your Dina are always going to come through for that as well. So it's something that comes through that is going to be very much better segmented if it's within our hybrid basket within Seedco. So basically, that's one thing that we would really want. Brian will take us on the hybrid short day onions and also their attributes and also the best time, the best planting slots that we can bring for these.
Okay. Thank you, Francis, for the flow. So unlike other vegetables, onions, when you come to us, we regard that as a problem. You come through with your problem that we will be willing to solve. if you want to buy a tomato, you can just come to our offices and say, I need a round tomato. Then we'll just recommend something to you right away. But for onions, we tend to ask a lot of questions. When do you want to sow it? What sort of shape are you looking at? What sort of region are you going to be planting your onions? What type of skin color are you looking at? It's a lot of questions. Days to maturity, and the rest of the stuff. So that's why as Seedco, we have a lot of onions in our onion portfolio. As you can see, I'll start with Chelsea. This is an early variety when it comes to days to maturity. We'll be talking of something that gets to maturity in 85 to 90 days. So by this, we mean you'll be able to sell your Chelsea in 85 days as a green onion. But if you want them dried, you have to wait a bit longer. So you can store this onion for more than 4 months. So it's 4 to 5 months in storage. And the exterior color or the external color is yellow. The shape is round. It comes with a very thin neck. We all know that it's of paramount importance to have that kind of neck. It kind of forms a seal that barricades the entrance of disease pathogens into the bulb when you are storing your onions. It also has high bolting tolerance. So bolting actually is premature flowering. When your onions experience some kind of a shock, let's say it's a dip in temperatures, or maybe you have extreme weather conditions, they tend to produce flowers thinking that they're about to die. So they would want to leave some kids behind, just as humans do. So it comes with medium bulb sizes. We measure bulb sizes in millimeters. So for Chelsea, we'll be talking of something in the range of 45 to 65 millimeters. That's the size of bulbs. Then I'll move on to Dina. This one is the king for disease resistance. It's a variety that comes with an unmatched disease package. You can plant this variety from January all the way to May. So it's very flexible. By the way, Chelsea is for the March and April sowing window. That's the peak performance period for that variety. So Dina is very flexible, but the bulb shape has got a round top. The skin color is yellow, 90 to 110 days, slightly later than Chelsea in terms of days to maturity. And you can store this variety for 4 to 6 months. Moving on to a new kid in the block, we have Soberana. It's also early when it comes to days to maturity, and it also comes early when it comes to its sowing window. So this one is your go-to variety when it comes to sowing in your February up to April window. So it comes with a thin neck, and it's predominantly single-centered onion. It has high bolting tolerance, high bulbing power as well. So for those high population farmers, you can opt for this Soberana variety. It also has a lot of foliage. So this is a very good attribute when it comes to selling your onions as green. Then on the red portfolio, we have Shani, our only red, and the sowing window for Shani starts from March all the way to May. So it's also medium early when it comes to days to maturity. It has around a tip, excellent disease package, just like your Dina, and the sowing window is also wide. It comes with a very excellent internal appearance. It comes with those red rings, highly sought after by our market on the red onions. Then moving on to the next slide. So these are our intermediate day onions. We do have two. So these are the onions you can sow starting November and December, October, last week of October, November, and December. I'll start with Python. It's a highly uniform. It comes with a thin neck, round in shape, high bolting tolerance. It also comes with single centers. It's suitable for early sowing windows for summer onions. So this one you can plant it in late October, the last week of October and November. Then it has tough, multi-layered, glossy, dark brown skins. and firm bulbs. Then the other variety we have in our portfolio is called Camilla. It's also early when it comes to days to maturity. We'll be talking of 90 to 110 days, highly uniform, thin necks as well, and strong against soil-borne and storage challenges such as your botrytis, and it produces medium-sized bulbs. And when you talk about storage, it can last you about 3 to 4 months in storage. Then it's all about money, eh? So this is just, we have two scenarios here where we were talking about yield per square meter. We call it 1 square meter rule, where we will be talking about the money you can potentially get from 1 square meter. So on 1 square meter, you can plant 60 to 120 onions. It depends with your spacing, and in a 10 kg pocket, you have about 50 to 80 onions. This means that you can realize 10 kgs from a square meter. Let's say you sell your 10 kgs for $2.50. This means that your revenue per hectare will be equating to something like 16,000 US dollars. And if we move to the upper limit, the most upper limit actually, which is $12 per square meter, we'll be talking of a revenue that is close to 80,000 per hectare. So it's a very huge stretch from 16K to 79,000. So farmers, it will be a decision for you to position yourself whether you want 79K, you want 16, you want 20, you want 30K per hectare. Then this is just the gross margin for onions. So you can realize 90 tons, and if you have 85% average payouts, you will be talking of 76 tons per hectare, and your income will be around 38K. Total variable cost per hectare, we'll be talking of something in the range of 6.5. Farm gate price usually is at 50 cents per kg. I have alluded to the gross income. So you can realize 31K from a hectare of onions. Then on land preparation for horticulture, I think I will leave the floor to Francis to take us on this aspect of production practices.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I think for land preparation, that's obviously the best thing that we can obviously do for our crop after getting the right seed. So conventional tillage is the one which is mostly used. So that means plowing to a depth of around 30 to 35 centimeters deep. Just to make sure that if you have any leafy or shallow rooting crops like onions and cabbages, it will be really good depth that can actually allow for our roots to actually manage to get the best nutrients and obviously manage to get the best moisture as well, which is within our soil. So we need to make sure that if we're going to be putting our onions, the minimum depth that we can try to put, the minimum depth that we can try to put is about 30 to 35 centimeters. Then the maximum for the deeper rooting crops, e.g. tomatoes and peppers, obviously can go to about 40 to 45 centimeters. But the maximum for onions and crops obviously can get to around 30 to 35. So we need to make sure that if we're going to start our onions, let's make sure that our land prep is always on point. Final tilth shouldn't be too fine or cloddy. We don't need clods, but at the end of the day, we don't need it to be too fine as well. So we need to make sure that we find a good space which is right within to make sure that our crop is going to start off very well. Then another thing that is always necessary is to make raised beds with a width of about 1 to 1.2 meters, which is, if you're going to look at it from center to center, it's going to be ideally between 1.5 to about 1.8 meters center to center, from one center of one bed to the center of the neighboring bed. That is actually one thing that you can obviously try to work with. So we need to make sure that we come with these raised beds, especially in areas, obviously, that we know that our soil is going to be a bit much more of an issue when it rains. You need to make sure that your crop is always going to be on a bed which is raised so that your rooting zone is not directly submerged, or it doesn't come through in a space where it can actually get to be within a waterlogged area. Growing on the flat is only better if we're going to be doing it in better draining soils. But ideally, as a seed grower, we recommend our farmers to make sure that they're going to put their crop under raised beds. Field choice, we need to make sure that our field that we're going to be putting our onions on is rotated. So we need to avoid any soil contamination. Usually this is done, obviously, if we put any crop that is related to onions. So any allium relative that includes the garlic, spring onions, we need to make sure that our soil is not going to be contaminated with anything that might have been grown there at any point within the past 5 years. But ideally, let's make sure that our soil is going to always start quite so well. And obviously, our disease and pest management is always going to be quite good as well, so that we avoid any contamination coming through in our soils. So that at least if we're going to be rotating, we can rotate our soils during the year and make sure that each and every onion season we're going to be coming through and we're going to have soil that is going to be performing quite so well for our onion crop without suscepting it to any pressure of getting diseased. Preferable pH of our soils is obviously going to work between around 6.5 from 5.5 to about 6.5 on the pH scale. So we need to make sure that our soils get tested so that we manage to get soil that is within the 5.5 to 6.5 range, so that we don't have any issues of our crops not managing to absorb some nutrients that are going to be in our soil because the soil is too acidic or too alkaline. So we need to make sure that our soil is just within the range so that our soil can be in a space to be able to manage to absorb all the nutrients that are within our soil and not to be able to not be able to pick up some of the nutrients within our soils. Preferably, soils with good structure and water management are necessary. Water management is always necessary because at the end of the day, if it's not really that good, we have problems that like leaching that come through, especially if you're going to be growing your onions during the summer. You know that the rains are going to come through and they're going to leach your soil. So we need to make sure that we manage to do that. Favor preceding crops. These are the grains, the potatoes as well. But for the potatoes, we need to make sure that we are aware of any volunteer crops that are going to come through. So we need to make sure that our herbicides are always going to be on point. And we need to avoid crops like maize, especially some of the herbicides that are used in the maize. We need to make sure that we always know the residual period of most of the herbicides that are going to be used in maize, because there are some that come through with a longer residual period, like obviously atrazine, which is going to be a bit of a challenge. We need to make sure that we are always ahead when it comes to this. So let's make sure that we know our farming history of the plots that we're going to be putting our onions on so that we don't have any problems as we go onwards. Also, avoid excessively wet soils. These are always going to be more waterlogged. Stony, rocky soils, they're always going to obviously affect our onions, because as our onions tries to bulb up, we might actually get some bruising or some damage that is going to happen on our bulb. So we need to make sure we manage to get a very good space which is not stony or rocky. And also heavy clay soils as well. They're a bit of a challenge because your onion is always going to come through and try by all means to as your onion grows within the soil, you don't want to come through in a space where possibly you are going to have your onion not getting enough space for it to start to bulb up. So we need to make sure that our soil is loose enough to actually give it the liberty for it to actually get to bulb in a way that is not going to be restricted in any way. Peat soils are satisfactory, although onion ripens more slowly on soils with a high organic matter content. Weed control is also quite much more difficult in these peat soils as well. So we need to make sure that we get to know our spaces. Fields should be free of nematodes. Onions are affected by nematodes as well. I think me and Brian, we had a client that actually had a complaint about nematodes last year that we managed to go and see, but it's obviously something that our farmers don't really get to know about as we go. So it's always necessary for us to start off with a field that is going to be nematode free, as well as our onions can be affected by those as well. Soil-borne diseases as well, we need to make sure that we get to know them. The dumping off, it's always going to be a problem on your seed bed. So we need to make sure that we manage to control most of those by using the correct chemical solutions that can always go, that are always going to be a bit of a challenge. And also we need to make sure that we don't have any weed seeds on our space as well. So let's try to control that by any means necessary. Soil preparation, we need to plow the soils as level as possible so that our bed is going to be level, and also create a flat bed with a layer of equal divided crumbled soil. Seeds should be sown in the soil and then the soil compacted over them to give contact for water transfer, but don't compact too deeply as well, as our onion seeds might not actually have any good space for it to actually start to germinate well. Soon after sowing, I think Brian might talk about it. There's also the element, obviously, of diseases like the dumping offs that are going to hit our seed beds. There are quite a number of solutions that we can try to bring through soon after sowing that can obviously help us to get a higher percentage of that can give us a higher percentage of germinations without any dumping off deaths. So Brian is going to go deeper on that and also talk more on the sowing and the planting of our onions. Brian, to you.
Yeah, thank you, Francis, for the floor. It's just unfortunate that we are not able to see the farmers, but they are seeing us.
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of our sowing or planting, there are two techniques of cultivation for onions. You can do direct planting or direct sowing or transplanting. But the most common used method in Zim is transplanting. Maybe it's because of the lack of machinery we have in our country. So the sowing depth should be around two centimeters. So there's an experiment that we carried out when we just wanted to see the effect of sowing depth when you are doing direct sowing or even when you are preparing your seedbeds for onions. So when we used a depth of 2.2 centimeters, we had 26 plants germinated, and the estimated yield per hectare was at 65 tons. And the 3.5, the number of plants reduced, so they went a bit deeper. That was 22. We got 22 plants germinated. Then the yield, we had a reduction of from 65 to 55. So we had a yield loss of around 10 tons. Then at a depth of 4.9, we only managed to germinate about 11 plants. And our yields were now being estimated at 48. So sowing depth is very, very key when you're doing your seed bed or when you're doing your direct sowing of onions. Seeds quantity per hectare depends on seeds germination, requested bulb size, soil preparation or conditions. So to achieve your 600K to 800K plants per hectare, you need to use 4 to 5 kgs per hectare. But as Seedco, this is, and I think our onions are in seed counts, right? So they are in seed counts. We'll be talking about 1 million plants to 1.2 million seeds. So I think Francis spoke about these spacings, the bed center to bed center. So you should be able to produce your seedlings to look like a pencil. We call them pencil thickness. This transplanting method, it extends the growing season in these temperate areas, and preferably when it is difficult to prepare or clean and properly till the soil. It demands a lot of labor. I think per hectare you can actually part with something around 600 to 700 US dollars, but it also enables early maturity and uniform high yields. The soil should be drained, fertile, loam to send loam, and rich with organic matter. And soil preparation needs deep cultivation of necessary land, either by soil turning, plowing by spade, and subsequent 2 to 3 walling with cultivators. Beds should be raised. This gives enough room for your field to drain excessive moisture. So they should be raised for about 15 centimeters, and the width should be 1.2 to 1.5 meters. This is just a depiction of an onion crop phenology from a seedling stage where you'll be having your first leaf up until the final leaf fall. So it will take you about 90 days with our varieties. So your crop generally will require about 350 to 500 millimeters of water per growing season. But this irrigation aspect is something that we cannot standardize. Soils are different, the climates are different. A lot has to be considered when you are coming up with the irrigation cycles you need in your area. So it's something that has to be tailored specifically to you. But my advice I always give to farmers is to maintain their field capacity so that your crop won't experience moisture stress at any point of growth. Irrigation period and quantity depend on season, temperature, growing stage, soil and structure. Last 2 months of cultivation, increased irrigation is required. This is the most sensitive stage when it comes to onion production. You need your water to be on point because your bulbs will be swelling. They will be really growing. You go there today, you go after 2 to 3 days, you see massive changes there. Later and excessive irrigation may cause later maturity, storage problems, and cracking. Even after laying or neck fall, the bulbs continue to grow, adding to 20 to 30% of the yield. This is quite significant. So irrigation has to be considered as a key factor when doing onions. This is just a depiction of progressive root development for direct seeded onions at 60 days. That was the root density. At 105, that was the density, and 134. it was now massive. Then when it comes to fertilizers, again, this is just a general approach we have used here, but it's something that has to be tailored to your soil. So the proper way of doing it, you have to do your soil analysis, and you have a program that is tailored to you and tailored to your variety as well. These varieties, they have different absorption curves. If we talk of something like Chelsea and Dina, we spoke about days to maturity. They are different. Dina matures in 90 to 110, Chelsea 85, you are there. So the fertilizer programs have to be different. So they are also variety specific. The onion roots generally do not go below 30 to 50 centimeters. So leaching is a very big problem. When you are doing onions, you need to do, you do not, you don't need to do your top dressings at one go. So split application is highly recommended. You see that all anionic fertilizers that are highly water soluble, like your nitrates and your sulfates, they are easily washed out of the root zone if excessive rains or irrigation occur. This is particularly true in sand soils and soils with a low organic content. So there is a law we learned in school. It states that the crop yield achievable is dictated by nutrient that is most limiting. So if you have your onion crop and you limit your potassium, that potassium deficiency is the one that is going to define the yields you are going to get. I think it's something that is very clear. It applies even to your nitrates, to your phosphates, and all the other mineral elements required by your onion for growth. Each and every element has got its own role. You see that for your nitrates, they will be responsible for your foliage growth. Things like your potassium, they aid to your quality, potassium and calcium. Your boron also aids to absorption of other nutrients. So they are all key. This is just a picture explaining the law. So talking about nitrogen is crucial for photosynthesis. It's a major component of proteins, essential for new cell growth, important component in the chlorophyll. That's the green pigment of your crop. Important for the vegetative stage, and it's mobile in plant. It's also mobile in the soil. Excessive use of nitrogen will increase the risk of your bolting, and you get delayed maturity. It also compromises your quality of your bulbs. So you have a lot of storage issues if you spike your nitrates. Then your phosphorus, mainly for root development, it's not that mobile. Excessive phosphorus causes decrease in the uptake of other elements such as your zinc, your iron, and copper, which starts a chain of reaction of other macro and micro nutrient deficiencies. But it's a very key element, and it's incorporated usually when you are planting or prior to planting. Your potassium, it's good for quality skins, and there is a condition majority of farmers confuse with a disease where you'll be having some tips drying off, and they start spraying heavily with fungicides almost on a daily basis, but that will be potassium deficiency. So a lack causes elongated stalks and susceptibility to diseases, contribute to shelf life in many crops. It has got limited mobility in the soil, so you have to timely apply this nutrient. Then with control in onions, it's fortunate that on the Zimbabwean market currently, we now have herbicides. We have plenty of options. Your herbicides like your Linuron, your oxdiazone, you have your oxfluofen. So chemical control will influence the crop as well. You see that whenever you do your sprays, your crop reacts somehow. But it doesn't affect your yields. So farmers, you don't have to get worried when you see your scorched leaves after applying your herbicide, but you just need to do it at a proper rate. Then moving on to diseases. You want to take this one? I can continue.
You can carry on, Brad.
Okay, no problem. So we have plenty of diseases affecting our onion crops or crops in the allium family, but we just picked a few we thought they are they are of paramount importance. They are problematic diseases, especially in Zimbabwe. So we have your down mildew, we have the botrytis, we have Alternaria, we have stem phylum. Don't worry about the names, they're just names, but the disease, they look like this, eh? So that's your down mildew in the first picture, and then in the second picture, you have your botrytis, you have your Alternaria, you have your stem phylum blight. So these diseases, the good thing is you can control them with similar chemistry. We talk of your chemistry with your strobins, like your azoxystrobin, the triazoles, your difenoconazole, chemicals, yeah, chemicals with your metalaxyl as well. It's always good to be proactive. So farmers, they are advised to have a preventative approach when it comes to fungicides. Your fungicides like Mangozeb and your Dithen, Mangozeb, Dithen, and your chlorothalonil, they are very key when it comes to preventing these diseases or fungal diseases from building up. With the diseases, just in general in horticulture, you only have three precursors for a disease to develop. You need your host to be susceptible, you need your pathogen to be virulent, and you need the environment to be conducive for that particular disease to develop. So the only area where we can try to control is on the host, where we can bring in varieties that are resistant, or maybe the environment. Sometimes you can try to play around with in other species like your tomatoes, where you can do greenhouse production. But for onions, unfortunately, you cannot play around with the environment because they're done in the open field. The pathogen, there's nothing you can do to the pathogen. If it's virulent, it's virulent. It is coming, it is definitely coming to hit your crop. But on the genetics, that's where we come to play in SEEDCO, where we will be saying that we can give you a variety that is highly tolerant to a particular disease. The disease can come there and manifest, but still you can realize some significant yields from that particular crop. So we also have soil and storage diseases, where we have your botrytis, we have your fusarium, and your pink root. Pink root is also common. So our variety Dina comes with pink root resistance. You won't have any pink root in your field if you plant your Dina F1. Botrytis, this is a storage disease. Internal symptoms of neck rot include water soaking and discoloration with white to gray mycelium in the neck. You also notice severe neck rot showing decay of fleshy scales and black sclerotia. Soil line rot resulting from infection at the soil surface, sporulation as well of botrytis on the dry outer scales. So usually when you store your onions, you just say, these onions, they are getting bad because they are in storage, but actually you'll be having your botrytis. So when you are closing off your spray program for onion, you need to make sure that you include a copper-based fungicide so that you deal with these storage diseases. Then moving on to a few disorders we have selected here. We have bolting. I think I spoke about bolting. So susceptibility to bolting depends on genetics and crop development. Start sowing at optimal dates. So the issue of windows will come into play now to say which variety am I planting in February so that it doesn't bolt. That's when you have to visit us. We are so free as SEEDCO. You can always come through. We have a trial station located in Mount Hampton, close to our HQ. You can come through and we give you the proper varieties for the proper time you would want to sow it. You also need to limit use of excessive nitrogen in the first stage of growth. Then we have splitting. So for you to manage splitting where you'll be having two bulbs from a single seed, you need to avoid stress conditions like your nutrients, your water management, your chemical treatments, and diseases as well. And you also need to choose a resistant varieties. I think choosing the right variety will save you a lot in terms of dealing with these disorders or even diseases. If you choose a variety that is good enough, I tell you, you will not regret your choice. Then moving on to harvesting, you need to start harvesting when top has fallen by 50% and leaves are still green. This gives better skins for early onions that have few skins. For storage onions, start harvesting later. They have more skins, and the onions will have a higher yield. So we have our harvesting protocol. I think Francis will touch on that one. You just run through the key areas where you need to look at when you want to sell your onions as dried. I think this is the last slide, and I'll hand over the floor to Francis.
Definitely. I think we can go through this quickly, and also I'm pretty sure our farmers might have left some questions as well within our chat.
Unfortunately,
no question.
We can't see the questions there because we are on
we're doing a
on
good
slide
job.
mode.
We're doing a good job. But anyway, typical harvesting protocol. Step 1, cut irrigation at 60 to 70% leaf fall. So if you're looking at your field, and once you've reached the leaf fall stage, where you see your field, most of the necks have started falling. If you reach around 60 to 70%, then you can start to cut off your irrigation. Step 2, at 80 to 90% leaf fall, pull out the onions from the ground. So you are uprooting them and putting them and taking them out of the ground about a week after cutting the irrigation. Step 3, upon pulling the onions, take them into rows, put them on top of each other, and ensure that the leaves cover the bulbs to avoid any sun scorch. Step 4, ensure that the bulbs are facing away from the sun's direction, because we don't want to avoid any sun scorch, and also avoid any issue of our onions starting to green as well by making sure that they get some sunlight contact. So we need to make sure that we put our bulbs facing away from the sun. So step 5, leave the onions to cure for about 2 to 3 weeks. Once the onions are dry, cut the leaf at the bottom closer to the bulb, but ensure that there is at least a centimeter on the leaf left, so that you're not directly cutting right close to the onion. So you need to make sure that you manage to just do it much more precisely, and make sure that everything just comes out well. So basically, I feel like this is the end of our slides, and I think we can also start to get through to the issue of questions as well. The first question, Brian, it says, which onion variety can I plant now? Which variety can you recommend?
Say now?
Yes.
Meaning in January.
January, yes.
So that's definitely Dina.
Dina F1 is our best performer. It's our star performer during this time. Like what Brian was saying, it's highly compatible with a huge number of slots. So it's definitely one of those varieties that is going to come through and also perform quite well. Then second question from TK, asking, what about the rains we have now? Can one start on Dina?
Yeah, some of the farmers have already started.
Yeah.
It's always good to be early in the seasons, because you'll be the first one to be on the market.
Definitely.
But you see that unlike these other crops, onion seedbed management is very difficult. I've seen some farmers, they employed new strategies like doing your onion seedlings in the greenhouses because of the rains.
Yes.
Truly speaking, doing seedbeds during the rain season requires a lot of effort. But if you win, you make a lot of money. So I can say yes, you can win.
Most definitely. And I feel like another tip that we can give our farmers who are going to be starting their onion right now is to make sure that they incorporate some chemicals that are going to deal with some of their major problem points, like obviously the dumping offs. There are quite a number of options which are on the market, and a lot of chemical producers have some of those chemicals. But the one I feel like I've had the best testimonies, I don't know about you, Brian, Proper Mockup, the chemicals with the Proper Mockup active ingredient, or even Apron Star as well, that some of the companies sell out there. They usually help in terms of trying to control the dumping off. But you also have other elements that are going to come through, like obviously your nutrition, because of the high rains, and obviously the leaf diseases as well that are going to come through right now. So definitely it's something that our farmers need to engage with their agronomists before they start. Patience for Minister of Justice was asking, when is the right time to plant onions? Like Brian White had said, Dina, you can start to plant it now, and you can even get deep as up to May to sow your onions. So definitely you can plant them from.
My answer would be, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because even in summer, we have summer varieties.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. But obviously you're going to get maybe 3 months. About 3 months that you're not going to have any varieties to pull through. Patience was asking, can I have contacts for Marsh East agronomist? I stay in Bora. Fortunately, I'm the agronomist for Marsh East. So my name is Francis, and I'm pretty sure we'll give our numbers at the end of this session. Brian, I think Mlindeli Sibanda is asking, is there a difference of planting on a seedbed or in a greenhouse in trays?
So you know what I'm thinking? After this Q&A session, we just need to beam up our details so that farmers will be able to take them.
Most definitely.
Yeah. It's good that you're the victim now. This one wants your details. So is there any difference of planting on a seed? What happened? On a seed bed or in a greenhouse in trays? Yeah, it's definitely different. If you do your seed bed in the greenhouse, it's very easy to manage, but very expensive. If you give your seed to these seed to nurseries, they will charge you a lot of money to do that under greenhouses. Then you see that in the open field, diseases are also difficult to manage. Weeding also is something you need to be at par with. Yeah, I think that's all. What can be done to decrease curing time? Curing time basically is 2 weeks. Once you start contemplating on decreasing it, you might compromise on your bulk quality. That's my thinking. I don't know, Francis, if you have something to add on.
Most definitely. I think you've exhausted it. Odinga is asking he's acknowledging that the presentation was rich. So it's something that
Thank
we
you.
can try to push through as well. We'll send it to you. What are some practices and tricks to ensure low seedbed mortality? I think, yeah, like we said, I think you can.
It's from Tinashe. Well, what I would suggest for him is to come through and we have a thorough discussion. But what you need to look at, things like your fungicides, they have to be on point.
Yeah.
Your spacing, your seed spacing when you're sowing, is something that is very key as well. Then you need to incorporate practices like mulching when you're doing your seed bed, the way you remove your mulching, irrigation is very key as well.
Removing your mulching is an art. It's something that has to be done at the right time and obviously with so much experience. Yeah. Then Nelma was asking how much is Dina. Dina currently we have it in 150,000 seed packs that are currently going for $254 each retail. You can find them at Farm-Base, Farm and City, or you can come directly to our stores as well, and you can actually get that.
There's a question from Delight. She's saying, good day, team. I've seen other farmers cutting or trimming their seedlings just before transplanting. Is this recommended?
What do you think?
Yeah, it is. You know what they'll be doing? They're just shocking the onions so that when they transplant them, they will be in the drive of trying to recover the lost foliage. Yeah. So they adapt better when it's like you're just hardening. You're training them to face extreme conditions.
It's a forced hardening.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Muchafa is asking, would you recommend use of green sulfur instead of AN?
It depends with the soil.
Yeah.
Like so soil analysis now becomes very key. So that you can use your ammonium sulfate in some soils, but in your sandy soils, definitely you'll be using your AN.
Most definitely. Paul Marira is asking about the webinar recording. It came late. I'm pretty sure this will be shared. I'm pretty sure it's something that we can always get in touch with. We'll put our details at the end of this presentation just to make sure that we get that. So there was also another question from Martha Hussein. My field already has maize. Will my onion be okay if I don't use any herbicides on the maize plant? Most definitely. I don't feel like there's going to be an issue here. The herbicides are our biggest problem, especially atrazine. It's a big problem because atrazine is in there for a bit of a longer period. So we need to make sure that when we're putting our maize, we obviously have to put on the consideration that there's obviously going to be another crop after. So we need to make sure that we use herbicides that have a shorter residual period. So definitely, I think it's something that you can try if you haven't used any herbicides.
It's just a comment from Tinashe. Then can I put shed net over my seedbed? If resources are available, yes, you can do that. That's from Mfapairi.
Yes.
What's the best variety to plant on between 25th to 1st of February? I heard you mention that Soberana is also good. So between Soberana and Dina, from 25th to 1st of February.
Yes.
That's the planting window for Dina, actually. Soberana, you need to start in February. So I would say you definitely go for Dina. And you need to also look at other attributes like the shapes, the disease spec, things like your skinning ability. So yeah, that's a perfect window for Dina.
Another one as well from Tabitha Rujizo. Tabitha was asking, my Dina was oval shaped off last season instead of round. What could have caused it? Because I'm pretty sure this is a question that we get quite a lot. Brian has always had, in his last presentation, for those who came through for our field day, he mentioned that obviously dinner obviously has its round top behavior, but if you manage to control your moisture, if you manage to irrigate quite well, your onions are not going to have a bit of a much more elongated bottom, because the elongatedness is actually from your roots trying to go deeper to access water, to access the moisture within your soil. So you need to make sure that you manage your watering quite so well within your soil, so that you manage to get a really good shape like that.
Do you have Dinner F1 in stock, and how much is a kilo?
Very much. It's available. Dinner F1 is available. That's from Roderick Munyaradze. That's currently going for it's going for 254 for a packet of 150,000 seeds. So you can get our seeds from FarmBase, Farm and City, or any agro dealer who works with us, and obviously from our online shop or our Stapleford shop as well. So you can just alternatively get in touch with your agronomist to make sure that you just get your seed at the recommended price Seedco sells at.
Yeah, this is for you again, Francis, because it's mentioned in Marondera.
Yeah.
Can I have more varieties of red onion, and in Marondera, where can I get it?
In Marondera, you can get the seed at Farm and City or FarmBase along Pine Street. You can always get your seed from there. Farm and City Rank or Farm and City in the industries, you can get our seed there. Or alternatively, just get in touch with you can get into FarmBase and get in touch with our field marketer, who will be right within the store, and they can always help you to make sure that you get your seed on time.
Can we plant Soberana now? I think we have answered this one. It's from Messi.
Limbiso asking, when is the best month to have an open field seedbed for a beginner?
Anytime.
Keyword beginner.
What is it with the beginners?
Yeah, we have to
What
make
are they
sure
known for?
you have to make sure they try to do everything so well, and obviously they're trying to avoid
I think the
maybe
March
any
sowing window
homework
is
as
very
well.
easy to manage.
Yeah.
If you do your sowing in March, and you do during that window, you will be now doing your Chelsea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then how can we remove weeds from a 2-week-old seedbed? I think manual weeding.
So it's when hand weeding.
Mechanical hand weeding, yeah. Please describe step 4 of the harvesting protocol from Ruzi. The fourth step was ensure that the bulbs are not facing the sun's direction. Brian?
Self-explanatory. What is it saying?
Describe step 4.
Where is it? Oh my God.
Yeah, you have to make sure
that the bulbs are facing. So you need to make sure that your bulbs are not that exposed to the sun. So you'll be using the foliage of other bulbs to cover the bulbs of other onions. I don't know if it's making sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then Rodrigue is asking about pesticides and fungicides. I'm pretty sure this we can always share. But in time is killing us. The presentation is almost over. But for our farmers, they can always get in touch with the agronomists within their region. But if you want any extra details, Brian's number, can you give our farmers your numbers before our presentation ends?
Okay, let's just do a quick run through for the remaining questions. So we were at which question? Okay, if possible, can we have a list of pesticides? We can do that. With your support when I get the seed from you. Farm visits. Farm visits won't be that frequent. We can't be able to be visiting farmers on a daily basis, but we do support you even remotely. You can always send pictures to us, but we do pay some visits to our farmers.
Okay.
Is it an absolute no to plant onions on a plot that had maize? Yes, if you had used a herbicide like your triazine, you don't need to be planting onions after maize.
Yeah.
But if you do not have any herbicide residues, you can plant your onions. When you say dinner is planted now or February, do you mean putting on the nursery or transplanting? Yes, we mean sowing. That's putting into the nursery. Okay, for the recording. Yeah, we've answered this.
There's an anonymous attendee. So, Mr. Francis, do you also cover Rua? Yes, I cover Rua. So, yeah, let's get in touch.
He's the right man for you. So I think that's all for questions. Let's just try to flight our numbers there. Maybe we go to the first slide. We can just press on.
Okay. So we're just having a technical issue.
Where's the one? Something. Okay.
Our numbers are as above on the first slide. These are our contact details. So you can always get our contacts there, right there. For Brian, that's 0779 270 369. Then my number is 0778 138 897. So basically, I feel like we've managed to go through quite a number of those. So please feel free to get in touch with us and make sure that we manage to assist each other as we go. Thank you so much for attending, and we really appreciate everyone who came through for this. And we hope to also come and meet up with you as well, and also get in touch with our farmers to make sure that they get in touch with their seed agronomist, and also they get to know the best variety to plant in each and every slot. So please get in touch. Brian, any last words?
Nothing much from you, Francis, but these presentations, they are ongoing. We are actually planning for another tomato training on Friday. We'll be flighting the advert, so we are hoping to meet you again in that webinar. But we are very open. We have given you our numbers, so you can always chat. Even at night, you just send through a message. When we have time at our convenience, we'll give you a response. Otherwise, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Remember, it starts with the right seed.
Yeah.